Superman.
Hey.
Superman is a character who's good.
Welcome back.
Who is filled with hope. He saves people because it's the right thing to do. We could use a little bit more of that.
To the stash.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
On July 10th, I had the honor to watch James Gunn's Superman, my most anticipated movie of the year. The movie I thought about every single day of my life since I first saw that incredible poster reveal. The movie I was banking everything on, to finally make me believe again. To finally give me the hope to look up and still believe a man can fly. Now right off the bat, in case it needs to be said, I will be diving into some light spoilers here and there. But honestly, this isn't a full scene-by-scene breakdown. It's not a full-on movie review. This is just me trying to put into words what it felt like to finally see Superman done right again. What it felt like to sit in that theater and believe again. But still, spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie yet, do yourself a favor and go watch it. Then of course, come right back. This Superman movie, just like Superman himself, had the weight of the world on its shoulders. And let me tell you right now, it did not falter. It did not waver. It did not fail. But what it did do was take that weight and pressure and fully owned it. And in doing so, it resulted in one of my favorite comic book movies ever. From the score, to the actors, to the action, to the heart of the story, this is the movie I believe we, as Superman fans around the world, have all been waiting for. It's the one that's not afraid to dive into conflicts where others might fear to tread. It's the one that isn't ashamed of its comic influence, but instead embraces it, and that honestly couldn't be more clear than with how they handle the Man of Steel himself. Superman is, of course, the absolute core of this movie, and with that comes the daunting process of crafting him, not just as a hero, but also as a man. And this movie fucking nailed it. They put the man in Superman. It wholeheartedly understands Clark Kent on a fundamental and personal level. He's someone who's his own man. He's someone who doesn't let others define him, but instead shows everyone just exactly who he is. And that to me is everything, because that's what makes Superman work. Not the spectacle, not the big battles, not even the cape, which looks super cool by the way. It's the soul. It's the quiet moments. It's Clark Kent making you believe in good people again. And a huge part of that is easily because of the man who brought this character to life in ways we have rarely seen. This man nailed it. There's a sincerity to the way he plays Clark that you just can't fake. It's not out of character nor over the top, but rather it's uniquely him while also being something warmly familiar, be it the way he carries himself, in how he smiles, or simply in how he speaks with certainty, but also with so much passion. It felt like watching Superman, my Superman, our Superman, step right out of the comics and into the real world, and he didn't need to be this bulging Christ-like figure to prove anything. He was strong in the most difficult ways that in turn make you a true inspiration. He was vulnerable, both physically and emotionally, and while I know that some might not like seeing that kind of take, I for one loved it. I loved that the movie beautifully displayed this being from another planet to be the most human of us all, but most importantly, he just was. And that was more than enough. Hell, he said it best himself in the movie. That is where you've always been wrong about me. I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared, I wake up every morning despite not knowing what to do. I put one foot in front of the other, and I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time, but that is being human. And that's my greatest strength. This movie gets that. It captures it in every quiet moment and every massive one. It understands that Superman's strength truly doesn't come from the sun, but rather from his heart, from his choices and upbringing, from the way he responds to hate with compassion and violence with restraint, from the way he never gives up on us, on humanity, even when they give up on him. There's a major part of this movie, one that perfectly displays this. His past has been twisted and exposed, not just to the world, but to himself too. His name is dragged through the dirt. His symbol for a moment became one of fear instead of hope. But instead of giving up, he fights. For himself, for others, but most importantly for truth and justice. And that right there, that's Superman. This movie thrives on its pure understanding of Clark Kent, not just a savior or a symbol, but a man trying to do the right thing in a world that doesn't always want him to. And honestly, it was one of my favorite parts of the entire film, because it reminded me that being good, just trying to be good, still matters, and that maybe it's the real punk rock. I love how this entire movie just alludes that decency isn't naive, it's brave, that kindness isn't weakness, it's willpower. This film knew it had to get that right, and it did. In spades, and sitting there in the dark, smiling like a little kid again, it felt like Hope walked back into that room. It felt like Superman. The Superman we all know and love, that had been forgotten about, that had been buried under all these dark reimaginings, had finally joined us once more, and in doing so, it allowed me to truly, wholeheartedly believe in all the ideals that Hero has been fighting for almost a century, and I'll never be able to thank this movie enough for that. I keep thinking about how this film opens. Superman, broken and bloodied, fresh off his first ever loss in his career, carried through the snow by Krypton, gently lifted into the healing machine by his robots, surrounded by the quiet devotion of those who love and serve him. And as he begins to heal, he watches something. The old Kryptonian message, that broken, static-filled tape from parents he never knew, for it was simply his favorite video. Maybe because it felt like it held the answers, the final message, some piece of who he was supposed to be, and in those answers, a reminder of his purpose. But by the end, he returns to that same machine, to heal once more, to finally be able to rest. Only this time, the fortress's large spacious rooms aren't filled with the echo of Jor-El and Lara. Instead, it's home movies, it's his childhood, it's Mara and Pa Kent, it's the people who raised him, who loved him, who gave him the foundation that holds up the very core of his identity, who gave him exactly what he needed to be able to define his true purpose. And that's now his favorite video, and that's one of my favorite parts of the entire film, that full circle moment where he acknowledges them properly as his real parents and watches back all the fun memories they had together as he finally allows himself the time to heal was beautiful. It was real, it was human. It's exactly what Superman stories need to thrive, to succeed, to do the character justice, and this movie did that. This scene did that. It says everything. It harkens back to the age-old conflict that stirs within him. His biological heritage versus the heritage he was blessed with on Earth. And this movie, granted with a controversial change, nailed that grander meaning. It nailed just who Superman is. It acknowledged that yes, he's an alien. He's not from Earth. But he isn't defined by it. He's defined by the life he built, by the people who stood by him, by the love that shaped him, and that quiet shift from Krypton to Kansas, from origin to identity. That's what makes this movie so special to me. Look, I know to some, it's just a movie. But sitting there in that cinema, after all the misfires we've had of Superman, after all the long waiting, after finally being able to experience this world that just so easily pulls you in for a journey you'll never forget, it didn't feel like just a movie. It felt like something I'd been waiting for, not just for years, but maybe my whole life. This, to me, was what Superman 78 was like to a whole generation of people. It felt like someone finally understood this character. Not just Superman as an icon, but what he means to people like me, and I'm sure you too. People who grew up holding on to hope, like it was a lifeline. People who wanted to believe in something bigger, in goodness, in kindness, in heroes. I love this character. Through the highs and through the lows, through stories that inspired me and even stories that made me annoyed at how they missed the mark, but this reminded me. This brought me back to everything I felt when I first discovered Superman, for the hero he truly is. To those nights spent flipping through comics or watching old episodes thinking this is the man I aspired to be, not because he's strong nor because he can fly, but because he chooses to be good every single time, even when others would only resort to the very opposite. That's why this movie mattered to me, because it didn't just tell any ordinary Superman story that would be added to the pile of forgettable adaptations. It told my Superman story. It told our Superman story. The one that makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, there's still hope left in the world. That there's still a reason to care, to try, to believe. I spent so long hoping this movie would remind me why I love Superman. And it did more than that. It reconnected me with the Superman I thought the world had forgotten. Not as a symbol, not as a savior, but as a man. A man who chooses kindness, who fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him. Because in a world that's so quick to give up, to mock hope, to shut down empathy, to embarrass those who have passions, to bury goodness beneath cruelty, this movie asked us all to be open, to remember, to believe. And I do, not just in Superman, but in the very thing he was created to stand for. Because after all these years, after everything we've seen, everything we've lost, the truth is simple. The man still flies. And all we have to simply do is look up.